Hi, everyone. It's that time of the week again. We're here with Creature Code Podcast. Thank you so much, UPRN Radio. I absolutely love working with you guys. We are 107.7 in one of my favorite towns, New Orleans, and 105.3 on the Gulf Coast. And today we have a very special guest and a very special topic that's actually quite close to my heart. Today we have Carolann of Ethereal Encounters. I don't want to say her last name because I never say last names properly. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. But this is going to be a lot of fun. So all of you guys out there in Radio Land, you guys need to know that we now have call in capability. So that means you can call 1-888-393-1333. I love doing that on the radio. 1-888-393-1333. And you can call in and you can ask Carolann all the questions you want. You can ask me all the questions you want about our topic. And at the end of the show, we have Ask Angel. And this is where we take more psychic questions and the communication stuff. And Carolann is our guest today, and she's also intuitive. So I think it would be fun if we even open it up to human questions. Now, if you want to find me, it's raisingenergy.com. We have a new website, so you guys want to go check that out too. All right, without delay, let us bring on our special guest for the day. Hi, Carolann. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much. It's a joy having the privilege of being on your show. Thank you so much, Angel.
Well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. I did a show with you on your show, Ethereal Encounters, such a great show a few weeks ago. Actually a few months ago now.
A
Holy
few months
mackerel.
ago, yep.
Yeah. And it just happened all so fast. You're like, you have to meet Michelle and you have to, and I'm like, okay. And you guided me so beautifully and gently to where we are today. And I've already been on your show twice. So everybody has to watch her show and listen to her show, all those people out in Radio Land. But you know what? I want my people to know you. So please, Carolann, tell us all about you and who you are and what we're going to do today.
Thank you. And the reason I knew you'd be perfect for this network, after I had my first show with you and I watched a whole bunch of your videos, I just felt such a special energy from you and a connection. And I just knew, and you just know. So that's why we're so blessed.
Thank you for stalking me. I really appreciate
I
you. I love that. I do it. I stalk people. I'm just like,
you have to.
Who is this person? So, and especially if they're interesting. So thank you for making me interesting to you. I really appreciate that. I really do. I do.
We're blessed to have you.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, I was also blessed to be asked to be a guest, a host. Jeez, get it right, Carolann, on this network. Yeah, I think it's about a year and a half now. God, time. Like I'm so bad at time frames too, because time is such a construct to me. It doesn't feel like it's real half the time. So anyway, that time has been filled with such love and so much energy, meeting so many different people, learning, discovering, sharing, preaching, reaching, all the good words. And I developed Ethereal Encounters Unveiled. I was kind of guided to that name because all of the things that we experience are really ethereal encounters. And I wanted to unveil them and help people discover more about themselves on their journey to spiritual awakening. So I'm pretty thrilled that I have the blessings to be able to do that. I also have my own business called Sassy Townhouse Living. And you guys can jump on sassytownhouseliving.com. And I would be ever so grateful if you subscribe to my newsletter. But I do a lot of articles, product reviews, like cleaning hacks, tutorials, the whole thing. So between the both, they keep me very blessed and very busy.
That's amazing. And so we were discussing what it was we were going to do here today. And you and I decided that one of your favorite topics, which just happens to be one of my favorite topics, somebody just fell off my desk. I have so many statues on my desk. I actually, you fell off my desk. Oh, interestingly enough, the remover of obstacles, Ganesha. And this actually kind of plays into some of the things that we're going to talk about because of his particular story.
Yeah.
He's here. He's here. That's how I always take it. So we discussed that. We said, okay, what if you could talk about anything, what would it be? And your first response to that was near-death experiences. And this is a topic that's close to my heart for so many, many reasons. So tell me why this is your topic, your favorite topic, and a topic that's dear to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely in the top 5, that's for sure. And interestingly enough, when I first started interviewing people, that particular person had a very profound NDE, and it impacted me so much so that I welcomed him back. And this is before I was on United Public Radio, when I was kind of just kicking things up, doing them on my own. I had him back 3 times because, and I read Moody's book. I tried to like get a good grasp of what a near-death experience is. And because Raymond Moody wrote The Light Beyond, and that was one of the most profound pathways, I think, in anyone trying to discover what a near-death experience is. And it kind of started there with this quest to try to understand what are these people experiencing? What in God's name is happening here? Because there are millions of people throughout the globe that have them and had them. And there are probably millions more that just don't want to talk about it. Oh, Heidi's here. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Miss Heidi. And who else is here? Oh, Debbie's here too. Hello, Carolann and Angel. Much love from Boulder, Colorado. I love it. I love that everybody comes from everywhere.
Yeah. Heidi's our star sister. She truly is. She is connected to us in so many ways. But
that's so sweet. I love that.
So I tried to like get a good, and I'll tell you something, Angel. I still interview people that have had profound NDEs. I have one scheduled this Thursday. And
sorry, what do you have scheduled this Thursday? I missed that.
This Thursday coming up, I have a woman who had 2 near-death experiences that are mind-blowing, Angel. Mind-blowing. So you guys have to tune into that. So Koo Thunder's here.
Yes.
Hello, so good to see you, sweetie. Yeah, so I'm still trying to understand what it is that is there's so many characteristics and traits that every person that has experienced a near-death experience had. And it can't be coincidence. I know in the beginning, doctors were saying that it was a physiological effect, that it was caused by neurological shutdown. That was their
yeah, they're saying that the brain actually stays active in between that place of living and dying. And then that's what we're experiencing. Those are the scientific theories, because really they're theoretical, because the brain is still, shooting off. But the reality is there's so much more going on. And now that's being discovered too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I went through all of those models to see like, well, let's see if this is, part of the reasoning. And it didn't make sense to me. And some of those theories are like protective disassociation. So like our brain shields itself from trauma, and death is traumatic, right? So it would create this peaceful narrative, and that didn't wash with me. So I went through all of these neurological reasonings. And I said, this has to be so much more than that.
Yeah.
And to this day, I truly do. Now, there's one person in particular that if I had to name like the top 3 most profound near-death experience people I've spoken to, Peter Pangore would be at the top of that list, because when you hear his story and where he was in his life and where he is now, how it's transformed him, and the detail that he gives, you literally cry. I mean, I cry easily because I'm an empath, so like you can't look at me crooked because I will cry. But his story is definitely one of the most riveting stories that you when you hear it and you talk to this man, you're changed. It
Please
changes.
do share. Please do share. Give
Yeah,
us some gold nuggets if you want.
it really does, Angel. It's like I had him on probably 4 or 5 times because and I'm having him on again. I just can't stop talking to this person. After you hear his initial story, and then he starts talking about, because he's meditated every day of his life, and he's such a sage person now from this experience that when he teaches you, it makes truly an impactful effect on your being. Like you should go watch, when you get time, go on my channel on YouTube and look for Peter Pangore, Pangore, because I guarantee you will be changed
And that's on Ethereal Encounters.
yeah, that's Ethereal Encounters. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Crazy.
interesting you say that, because I think for me, my interest and curiosity about this is a friend of mine had mentioned a movie called Life After Death. And I thought it was a Gaia film, but it was actually out in the theaters. And I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go check this out. I never really had an interest in that kind of documentary kind of film going to the theaters. That's a
Yeah,
television thing for me. And
sure.
so I went to see this, and story after story after story, the connections, the similarities, and you'd think that what struck me about this is a lot of those stories is a lot of people have crossed over. They have seen and experienced what they've seen. And you think when you come back, they'd be like, oh my God, I feel so good about it. I feel so incredible about this. But a lot of them, because they experienced that ecstasy, that euphoria, that beauty of purity and all knowledge and all universe, literally came back going, I don't know that I can be here anymore after experiencing that, right? I know of some who became priests and those who have gone more community. And like, it's just an incredible thing to think one thing and be conditioned as to what that looks like if you have a near death experience, to what it's actually like when you hear it from other people or have one yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of similarities. Like there's a lot of like key indicators throughout each near-death experience. So a lot of them say that they experience moving through a tunnel or darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
They encounter this bright light being, like a being of light. They feel an overwhelming sense of peace or love. And love is a big indicator. It
Mm-hmm.
it it runs like that narrative runs throughout all the NDE stories. They mostly always have a life review. And the life review is so interesting because it's not judgmental, but it's more so that you could experience the hurt that you've caused other people, so that you could feel their pain, their anguish, and the people that they hurt because you hurt them. So there's this chain of pain that takes place. And they
And
get
that's
to
healing, right? That's a healing crisis and that's something that I talk about with my clients, because they're like, why can't I connect with my granddad? Or why can't I connect with my dad? They're going through a process right now, right? And sometimes that does happen. Like sometimes you can connect really easily, but sometimes it takes 3 months or a little more, while longer, because they're going through this orientation. I like to
yeah,
call it an orientation,
yeah,
right? And that's part of the process, what you're saying.
absolutely. Yeah, and I would imagine that folks that go through it, because in the, like, I was raised Catholic, and in the Catholic faith, there, I forget what it's called. It's in Latin too, but it's where Jesus puts you through the same thing, so that
Mm.
you get to experience all the pain and suffering, but it's not done in a judgmental way. It's done in a healing way, so
Yeah,
that you can heal, and
it's
those
for
people.
you to see your own stuff, be accountable, and then move forward from it, right? Because
Exactly.
that's the whole point, is releasing your earthly stuff. But what's
Yes.
really interesting, what I really loved about this particular film and my new understanding, was the other side of it.
Mm,
Because there are those who have near death experiences who are criminals, who have
yeah.
done things that they're not accountable for. And there was this one gentleman that really stood out for me, where he talked about this idea of, he was being closed in by this darkness. And as the darkness was closing in, it wasn't a hollow, please save me. It was an understanding in that moment of what he had done, and a true remorse, a true
Right.
taking of accountability.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, that darkness opened up into that light where all knowledges are. And that's another key point I know people talk about, is in that moment when you see that light, all of a sudden, all knowledges are there, all understandings and knowings are there all at once. It's like, oh my God, this all makes sense now.
right. Yeah, definitely. And also a lot of them encounter their deceased relatives,
Mhm.
and even entities that they can't identify. It could be angelic. Some of these beings are angelic. Um, they also have this point of no return boundary dissipates. So again, speaking of time, there is no time. There's no time
Yeah.
when people experience this NDE. And another interesting thing that I find, and the woman I'm interviewing on Thursday, her first, I think it was her first NDE. By the way, her name is Peggy Robinson. You can look her up.
And she's
She
had more than one near death experience?
she had two
Wow.
ones, yeah. And she argued with God, because she said that God was telling her, this is your time, the end of your life, and you need to, like, accept it. And she was arguing with God, saying, I have, I think, three young children, and I need to go back. I need to be with them, and, like, convince God to send her back, which, I mean, that was the first one I had heard of that particular thing happening. Most people don't want to come back,
Mhm.
and God will tell them, um, you have to go back. It's not your time yet. So that's pretty interesting of itself. There's another thing too. Of course, they have lasting psychological and spiritual changes.
Impact. Absolutely.
And another thing that, and I know Peter saw this, when they're in the NDE, they can see the earth, and they can see the billions of lights within people that exist. So they could see these cones of light or points of light. So I had asked him, even the evil people, even murderers and wicked people, does everybody have a cone of light? And he said, yes. It's
Absolutely.
dimmer in some and brighter in others, but everyone has this light, this light force. So, and there's a lot more, of course, and of
Yeah, I
course,
mean, this is not a topic you can just speak on for one episode. Like, this is, like you said, you've basically made a show out of this, which is an incredible, incredible thing, Ethereal Encounters, which is amazing. If you guys have any questions for us or for Carolann, please feel free to give us a call. Our toll-free number is 1-888-393-1333. And we're going to take this quite interesting comment from Debbie. I was told by a medium I dealt with many years ago, and she many times was bang on. So she said, I almost died at 4 years old, but I have no memory of this at all.
yeah,
Can you speak to that, Carolann?
yeah, that's very common. That's very common. A lot of people have documented states of death, and have been brought back either by CPR or whatever, and they don't remember. And I was just talking to a hypnotist the other day, and
Mhm.
he said that he was able to hypnotize people, and they were then able to remember
Unlock
either
that.
abductions or near
Yeah,
death experience. So, I mean, I would, if they're willing to try, I would say go for it, and maybe you don't want to remember that intentionally though, and that's always something to think about. Maybe it's just not meant for that person to remember that,
that's
because
right. Well,
sometimes.
sometimes it's a soul journey, right? Sometimes, and I say this about healing work, if you don't remember a dream, you remember little bits and pieces, don't go after it. Just
Right,
understand that there was something that was meant for your spirit, not your conscious mind,
absolutely.
right? I remember being a little girl, and this is a question I actually have for you. I was in a very serious car accident when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I
Mhm.
remember seeing myself from outside, my father holding me, and he was lamenting. And then the next thing I remember was being on the operating table, and I could see the doctors and I could see myself. And I remember hearing the doctors, I remember telling them what they said afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you saying that. And it was just a wee thing, right? And people were looking at each other like, what the hell? So when we talk about out of body experiences, sorry, my earphones keep wanting to come out. Out of body experiences and near death experiences. What is the difference?
Oh goodness, this well, in practicality, like if you want to learn how to OBE, how to have an out of body experience, go to Preston Dennett, because he wrote a book on it. And again, I've interviewed him a dozen times, and he actually teaches you how, where when you go to bed at night, you do this certain protocol. It's not difficult, it's pretty easy to do, and you can travel astral in the astral realm. Okay. Now, when you have an NDE, yes, you're having an out of body experience, but that gold string that keeps us tethered to
Mhm.
our bodies snaps, and then you go off into the ethereal. When you have when you're just doing astral travel, that string stays tethered, so you can return
So
back to your body.
how is it if the cord is disconnected? If that cord gets disconnected, how does it find its way back? Is that something that you've been able to talk about with others?
Well, during an OBE, like during an astral travel, like during
Yeah,
sleep,
that stays connected.
yeah, that's always connected. But in death, that cord is severed, and
Oh,
and
you're
it
not
never.
talking about a near oh, you're not talking about a near-death experience, you're talking about actual death, that's when the cord is severed. So a
Yeah,
near-death experience, the cord
actual
stays
death.
connected.
Right,
Okay.
but during your OBE, I mean, during your death, where you're okay, so say you pass and you're having your near death experience while you're communicating with God,
Mhm.
call him whatever you want, the universe, whatever. I'm just using the term God for ease. Um, that cord stays intact. This is what they've told me, until you agree to pass on.
Yeah, to
Once
disconnect.
you make the agreement, then that cord is severed. That's what
So
they've told.
I had a healing once, and I remember this person was slowly beginning to disconnect. But it was very interesting because it wasn't their time to die, but the cord had been almost half severed. I can't remember what the circumstances were, but we were able to recall lost body parts and lost parts of the soul and do a soul retrieval. And in doing that, we were able to heal that cord and bring that person into a wholeness. So it was a very interesting thing because it's almost like they had one foot on one side and one foot on the other. And you could see that. You could see that in their energy. You could see that in their life. Like you could just see the duality of everything. It's almost like they were living, but they were living and dead at the same time. It was a
Wow.
really interesting, yeah, this was a really long time ago, but I recall that because I remember when I went in to do the healing work, I don't do as much healing work anymore, but when I went in to do the healing work, I remember this is really weird. The cord is actually partially severed, right? So we had to do all that work to bring that back. And the fact that we were allowed, I remember thinking to myself afterwards, God had a plan for this person, right?
Yeah.
Because that really wasn't something that was felt normal. It didn't feel normal. It felt like an anomaly that this had happened, right? So yeah, so that was kind of interesting.
Sorry, Michelle just popped in. Hi,
Yes, I saw
Michelle.
that. And so did Hillbilly Herb.
Oh, hi.
Hillbilly
I need
Herb is here too. He's always here. He's so beautiful. I love him. I
oh,
love you, Hillbilly Herb. Hello.
he's
He's always got the greatest
so
questions.
bright. He's so bright,
Yeah,
and he's so spiritual. He rocks.
so sharp.
I was so listening to you. I stopped like reading the comments. So
Yes.
apologies to anybody
Oh,
that
it's
popped
all
in.
good. Okay, so now we know that Creature Code podcast has an animal spin on it, right? We all know that we're part of the animal kingdom as human beings. But where animals are concerned, have you ever had any experiences or information, or what are your thoughts on animal near death experiences? Have you ever encountered that?
No, but I was told that they don't have them, that when they pass, they just pass. That's what I was told. I don't know how true that is, but you'd probably know a heck of a lot more than I would.
I've encountered it twice, and that's why I asked, because I wanted to see your take on it. I had a dog who was literally hit by a car,
Oh,
was almost dead, but because of their owner, it was, "I'm not ready to leave yet. I'm not ready to go
oh,
yet." And they were really young. And I think it's very different in the animal world, in that for me and the experiences I've had, it's a matter of, do you want to leave? Let's converse about this. Is this something that you want to take your next step with? And then the animal, in most cases, will get to decide what they want to do. Whereas in in a lot of cases with humans, it's your time, right? Or it's not your time, go back. Whereas animals come to this threshold and they have, it almost feels like a conversation. And it's like, okay, well, if you don't feel you need to go back, what do you feel you want to do? Like that one person, actually that one person you were talking about, who said, I'm not ready because I have children, I have to. And I feel like, because in both circumstances, this is what happened. One dog actually was much, much older and literally had this experience where they physically crossed over and was in the other world and didn't want to come back, but the dog who was supposed to take its place wasn't ready yet. And it's like,
oh,
okay, dude, you know what? I'll just go back. I'll hold space for you. When you're ready, let me know. Right. And that dog actually ended up outliving its breed. And when it passed, this dog had been introduced as a puppy and went, okay, you're here now, I can go. And literally died within 24 hours of this puppy being brought into the home.
wow.
Right. So that was a conversation it actually had with
Yeah.
its successor.
It's so interesting. I mean, you're an animal communicator. So, but I mean, the only reason that I communicate with my pet, my dog, Oliver, is because we have this bond. So I can easily communicate with him now, after
Yes,
having him for so many years.
yes.
I know his thoughts, and I know what he wants when he wants things. But I think with the animal world that they process death, and you can tell me if
Differently.
that's they do.
Because
Like
they're
look
more
at
accepting. Yeah, they're more
right,
accepting. And this is one of the
right,
things that we talk about, is the whole idea that animals have shorter lifespans because they're so expecting. Hi, Michelle, how are you? They're so
yeah,
lovingly accepting of the cycle of life, that this
yeah,
is one of the reasons they're able to let go. Because one of the reasons we live as long as we do, I mean, look at our medicines and technology. It's all about keeping us alive. It's about
right,
not wanting to die. It's about not wanting to do that. But with the animal world, they're like, okay, but this is our process. This is our cycle, right? And we're okay with that because they also understand the reincarnation. They understand the other side. And when animals cross over too, it's a really loving thing in the sense of there are always other animals like humans who are waiting to kind of go, okay, come on over. So as soon as they see that animal, there's no resistance,
Exactly. I
right?
believe
There's
that to be
absolutely no resistance.
I believe that to be true. You know, the interesting thing about NDEs too, and I think that for the living, we need to really pay close. And that's one of the reasons why both of us are kind of obsessed with this topic, because there's so many lessons to be learned by listening to the folks that have had them. There's so many spiritual, what I like to call shortcuts that, like, you know, you can get from observing this. Like, even Moody said in his book, and I found this fascinating, that he isolated 8 kinds of personal changes that take place.
Ooh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it's a great read. It really is. So people that are undergoing it.
Sorry about that.
Oh, are you getting a call in, or is that just a personal call?
No, that was a fun call.
Oh, I thought somebody was calling in. Fun,
Me
fun.
too. I actually
Yeah.
should have taken that, to be honest with you. If she calls again, if Sophia calls again, she will, because she's always got the greatest questions. Actually, maybe she did want to ask a question.
Oh,
Oops.
geez. Well, I'm sure she'll call back. I'm sure she will. Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
go ahead.
fun.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so he was saying that these 8 kinds of changes that take place, obviously people lose their fear of death. And that's a big one, Angel, because the majority of people have a paralyzing fear of death. They really do,
Yes.
where it inhibits them from living. So even if you could just learn that lesson, not
Yes.
to fear death from these folks that tell their stories,
Well,
that's a huge one.
it's interesting because I yesterday, Giselle Damiani has her own podcast and it's about forgiveness. And we did an episode together. It was just amazing. It really was. Her podcast is Compassion and Light. It's really wonderful. And we did one on forgiveness on the other side. But one of the things that we talked about was just that, the whole idea that we fear death. And what
Yeah.
came up, and you will probably see her, I think, oh no, she's in front of me. Sante Muerte. Santa Muerte is the goddess of death. Her name is Holy Death, and she is death and abundance. And her followers are remarkable because they truly believe that when we embrace death, this is when we can truly be free to live. And I
Absolutely.
think that's a great thing. And in 2026, which is where we are now with the year of the horse, that is what we are releasing, this fear of death, these fears that we hold that are unfounded. In fact, this week it's been incredible because I've been telling people over and over and over again, if you knew how much your ancestors and your angels and your archangels and all those on the other side have your back, you would never shed a tear and you would never fear. And I think this comes back to
Yeah.
NDE because that's what they experience. They experience, for me, from my understanding, they really, really do experience, hello, hello. They really do experience that lack of fear, right? That peace, that calm that you're talking about is the lack of fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's been
Brilliant.
removed. It's such a simple thing that I think we miss sometimes. But once we
Absolutely.
release that fear, all of a sudden, that peace, that understanding, it opens us up to so much more. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Like, even with my children, I have 2 kids that are polar opposites of each other. My son's a
Mhm.
nurse. I can talk to him about death, no problem. He has absolutely no problem with it. My daughter, on the other hand, she was so bad. Like, if I would talk about my own upcoming death, she would literally start crying. So I had to, like, ease her into the acceptance of that. And she's a
Yeah.
very spiritual person. She's an empath too. And I think the more it's like, when you expose someone to something they're afraid of, they lose that fear. So I was kind of doing that with my daughter, trying to expose her to it. And it really did help. And I think with NDEs, that's one of the lessons, a big, big lesson is not to try not to be afraid, because this shell is just a housing for our souls.
Yeah.
We are spiritual beings living in this shell, and we will shed it when the time comes, and it's nothing to fear. Now, one of the other things that Moody talks about that I thought was very interesting is they lose their fear of hell and damnation.
Yeah.
Now, there have been cases, not many, that I've never spoken to anyone that experienced, well, okay, so this one person that I interviewed said that at first, when he passed, he was being dropped into this pitch black tunnel, and he felt that it was a tunnel of like damnation, like he
Right.
was going the wrong way.
Right.
And
And I've heard this. Yes.
yes, and he prayed there in this moment and said, Jesus, Jesus, because he was Catholic, and if you believe in Buddha, you'd probably see Buddha. But so he prayed for Jesus to save him, and he repented and did all the things, and
Right.
he saw the hand of Jesus come down and yank him out of this void, this
Yes.
dark void.
Yep.
And then he had the most magnificent NDE. That was the closest I've ever gotten to talk to someone who supposedly experienced hell in an NDE. There is a book about it where someone did experience that and did come back. Now is absolutely a transformed human. But in all the cases that Moody interviewed when he wrote his book after his profound NDE, everybody lost fear of damnation and hellfire,
Yeah.
along with the fear of death. And
And I
they
think that's a huge statement
did
to
it.
make, right? Because if we have lived sovereign lives or lives that have been of service, so to speak, and that could just be to family, right? For me, crossing over as a transition to be welcomed. And those people who do see that tunnel, that blackness, or whatever, that void, whatever,
Yeah.
that's just their opportunity to take accountability. Like for
Yes.
me, it's almost like a place where it's like, okay, do you really want to sit here and not be a cat? Because one of the things that I love is there's a statement that hell is a prison whose cells are open, the gates are open, right? And the minute we take accountability, we're allowed to kind of transcend. And so I think in those near-death experiences, we get to see and gauge where we're at as well, because when we come back, that gives us that second chance, so to speak,
Yes.
to whether we're living a great life already, to better that life, and if we haven't lived a great life, to better our lives and even teach others, right?
Absolutely.
Become the example. And I think that's one of the reasons NDEs exist as well. And that's funny because that just got downloaded in like 30 seconds or less. I think one of the reasons that NDEs actually exist is because we do need people who have experienced the pure light to be able to come back and say, here, I am now the example of that. Here,
Yeah.
I am the evidence of that, right? Because we are a very tangible and evidential society. And so I think sometimes to myself, do NDEs exist just for that individual? Absolutely not. I think it's there as a sharing tool, as a teaching tool. The one story that I really love is of this man who was not a great dad. He really wasn't. And he had this near-death experience, came back, was a great dad now, but now his family couldn't accept these changes. And so he
Mm.
actually lost everything in his life, and he
Oh,
became a preacher. He became a
oh,
preacher and went, you know what? If this is what's meant for me, this is what's meant for me. And in that, he gained back, I believe it was his daughter and his son's love. But his
wow.
life had so completely transformed when
Yeah,
he
yeah.
came back in ways that you never would have thought of. You think, well, if I have a near-death experience and I'm going to have, be that better person, so to speak, then everything's going to be, oh, well, my family will love me again and everything will. No, you're on a completely different journey now for some people, right?
Absolutely. And that's the same thing, Angel, for folks that are going through spiritual awakenings. Even Carl Jung
Hmm.
speaks about it so often and eloquently that
Yes.
this is a very lonely place and space to be. You get rejected by your friends, your loved ones, lots of times because they're not ready. That their journey hasn't yet caught up to yours
That's right.
in that respect. So it's not always this beautiful epiphany filled state. It's a
That's right.
very lonely, painful place. And the same thing with NDEs. And I think that you're exactly correct. They are lessons, and we need to start paying more close attention and listening to their stories. One of the other things that I love and that I really take to heart is they all, and again, from Moody's research, all of the people lost judgment upon other people. And they learned that God wants us to simply be better people.
Yes.
So stop judging people, stop labeling people, all the divisiveness that we
It
see.
all comes down to love life, love yourself. Like it really is. I believe there are those out there who believe that life is a prison. I truly believe life is a playground. But then I'm a Gemini, right? So I'm like perpetually a child. But the reality for me is I truly believe that life is a playground. And if we treat it like that, if
Exactly.
we treat it like that, then we're going to have a better experience. And that, in turn is like a spider web that will connect to other people. So again, if you guys have any questions, you can reach us at 1-888
Oh, yeah.
393-1333. What does Hillbilly Herb say? Close Encounters of the Third Kind does such an awesome job of showing a spiritual awakened breakdown through the Richard Dreyfuss character. I found it a bit triggering to watch, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Love that comment, Billy. It's spot on. And it's funny because even watching that movie, and again, all these movies of predictive programming that we're watching, these are realities that either do exist or will come to be. And that was a very, oh, what did this say? An orb. What did you say?
Yeah, I saw
Orb.
something go by. I did see
Where,
that.
where did you see that? On my screen,
Phone
Billy?
number goes into an answering machine. No, it doesn't, Sophia. You tried to call through and I hung up on you.
Oh,
Sorry. That was Sophia. She's like, the phone number goes through an answering machine. No, I didn't realize you actually had a question. I'm so sorry. Sophia is my family. She's my assistant. She's my everything. So okay, just I thought. Okay, so we have one here. Let's see. Where was the question that I
can I
had?
put this one up? Would you mind, Angel?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Mark, I apologize. I'm not too familiar with you, but I guess you watch Dolly and Preston's podcast. If you can say because I think there's one particular reference I had them on for a show, and he said that Dolly is wrong about three things: the Georgia Guidestones, David Wilcox, and SME Solar Flash. If you could kind of expand on that a little bit more, I would appreciate that because I do agree. Wait, I'm sorry, Angel.
No,
It's just
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, see,
yeah,
they said it zipped across. Yeah, I thought I saw something too. So thanks for pointing that out.
yeah.
Okay,
My
so Sophia
husband's always
says,
here. He's always here.
is that like what we used to be told before Heaven's Gate, where they go through your life book? Yeah,
Mhm.
you know what it is. So basically, that orientation, that time in between, that in between place between life and death, is that place where, if you look at Catholicism, the pearly gates. Right? You
Yeah,
have your kind of life review. Now, going back to the animals, though, which I kind of was thinking about as we were speaking, I don't think they go through that black tunnel. I don't think
I
animals
don't think so either.
experience that, to be honest with you, because their vibration is so high. And the reality is I don't think they really understand. I really don't. I don't think they understand darkness or anger or fear the same way we do. It's not that they don't experience it in life. It's just that they know how to let go. Right. And I
Well,
think that's a huge thing.
if you see an abused dog, Angel,
Mm,
and you adopt that dog and take him into your home, they don't think. I mean, you told me this about my own dog. You said that because Oliver was abused before I got him, and I
mm,
had asked you what I worry about that more than Oliver. You told me, and
yeah.
that's so true. They don't think about these things like we do. We hold on to these toxic thoughts and toxic emotions, and they don't. You're spot on
Yeah,
about that.
and some animals will, depending on what the situation is, but in death, in death, they let go of everything. They release everything. So for them, it literally is life and then
Yeah.
rainbow bridge. Whereas for us, it's life, orientation, healing, then whatever is next for us, right?
I
And
agree.
or reincarnation for them or what have you. But they're on such a different vibration than we
Mm,
are that even their near-death experience is so different. It's all about, okay, what do we want to do next? Do we want to cross over? Do we want to go back? What do we want to do here? Like it's always about movement forward. Whereas for
yeah.
us, our movement forward is we have to stop, do that healing, do that reconciliation, do the book of life, do all of these steps that we need to do, right? And again, we're part of the animal kingdom, but we are made differently, right? Not better, not worse, just
Right.
we're made a little
Different.
differently, right?
Absolutely agree with
Yeah,
you.
and it's
Have,
and it's
have one of the, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, and that's exciting to think that we can, and I know a lot of people are going to kind of be up in arms about what I'm about to say, that we can be as high vibrationally understanding and aware and knowledgeable as animals. People think it's the other way around, that they're kind
Right.
of trying to
Yeah.
they're trying to ascend to our vibration. I truly believe that it's the other way around.
Oh, I
I
think that's true. I aspire to be like my dog. My dog doesn't judge people. My dog
right?
doesn't hate people based on their politics. I mean, and that's one of the things that I love. And again, um, sorry, I was reading the comments. And again, based on Moody's research, um, that people lose judgment. They don't judge other people. They come back from this NDE completely transformed. So some people were bigots before, and then they lose
Right,
that. And I
right.
love that. I love that message. Another thing that I think is fantastic. Do you know how we're always afraid and we feel like we need to be in control all the time? Like we're control freaks. Everything has to be within our realm of control. Well, people that have had NDEs, they lose that sense of panic and control. They're no longer afraid of this compulsive previous obsession that they have with control.
And I
They
think
lose
that's
it.
the gift, right? That's the gift of being able to
Yeah,
do that experience or have that experience, that gift of being able to release that
yeah,
fear, release most of it. I mean, we're still human, we're going to go through it. But the reality is I think, like you said, you lose the bigotry, you lose the criminal mentality, you lose all these different things. Because what is the core of all that? Fear.
right,
Right?
exactly.
It's come from abuse. It's come from conditioning. It's come from, but we cross over, we see that light, we have all these new knowings and these universal knowledges, and we come back. That's still partially intact because I've heard that too. I heard this one woman, and she goes, when I came back, I had all of this knowledge, I had everything, but it fades. It almost becomes in the distant over time. I can't remember some of the things that I saw when I had that experience or experienced when I experienced it. It's like it begins to leave you, right? It's like a fast memory, and you get really sad because you don't want to lose those memories, right?
Mm. And I
Um,
guess I think that's an individual thing too, because with a lot of the people I spoke to, it has become more powerful. And even they started to have more memories. They started remembering more things about their NDE. I think it's just
really?
journey. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I've spoken
okay.
to quite a few people that have every year unfolded different memories, and some of them are, excuse me, absolutely mind blowing stuff. So I
Wow.
think it's about the journey you choose to like. I
I
don't
agree.
think, of course, every NDE is the same. Some are a lot more impactful than others. But again, I think that those are intentional because that's the journey that you like.
They
Why would
choose.
somebody, right? Why would somebody have two NDEs, three? I've interviewed somebody that had four NDEs,
Oh my God.
and she is so gifted now. Her all of her clairs have exploded like
Okay, so that's the other thing about near-death experiences, right?
right.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Near-death experiences can be one of those experiences, some say traumatic experiences, that can activate our abilities to a higher place because that part of our brain now becomes open. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, and again, varies in the people that I've interviewed, some a lot stronger than others. One person actually got the gift of they could control the elements, like the rain, the
Mhm.
wind, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, they
Um,
become avatars.
they could levitate. I mean,
Yep.
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, see, no, but so listen to what you just said. Crazy stuff. No, it's not. That's naturally who
yeah,
we're meant to be.
right.
That's a
Yeah,
natural part of, but yet we look at that and go, oh, that's the stuff of movies.
yeah. No, it's legit. A lot of these people have come back and have had profound
Yeah.
um, changes spiritually, physically, even. Some
Yeah.
have had, at least I'm trying to think, one or two I know of have had, bless you,
Thank you.
dear, have had physical ailments healed. They've come back healed.
Mhm.
One person in particular had such heart damage that the doctor said to him, your heart can repair itself to a certain extent, but yours is so bad, and within 6 months, his heart completely healed, and the doctors were like, "You gotta," they couldn't believe it. So
Yeah.
some have had physiological healings too, a whole
Absolutely.
array of stuff, a whole array.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I learned from the medicine people I worked with is, life is as complex or simple as we make it. And when we touch the simplicity of light and source, we come back. Everything is shifted. Our molecules are shifted. Our not just our minds, but our molecules, our senses, like every little thing, our DNA, it's now changed. And we'll take that into other lives with us, right? And I think that's really important to note as well. This isn't just about this lifetime. You've
That's
now changed on such a cellular level that you will take this into other lifetimes. You've now touched 7 generations down in this lifetime. Imagine what you're going to do in the next one because of it,
yeah,
right? And that's exciting. That's really exciting to me.
it really is. And you would think that that would help heal, generational trauma, like soul trauma that has
Yes.
happened. Yeah, I would think it would impact that as well. Yeah.
So we're now at around 5 o'clock. So this is where we do our Ask Angel segment. So on this Ask Angel segment, what we do is we take psychic questions about animals. And in this particular case today, we're also going to take them about humans. So I love to open this up. So again, if you want to give us a call in, it's 1-888-393-1333. The phones are a little quiet today, but that's okay because Carolann is so interesting. So it's not a
Thank
worry
you.
for me. And I love the fact that we have all these people coming in, all these new people coming into the show who obviously are fans of Carolann as well, and who may have found us on YouTube and Facebook where we actually stream. And if you are on my Facebook page, Raising Energy, and you can't catch us on Angel Morgan, apparently there's a technical glitch, so it may have cut off there, which is fine. If you also want to join us on screen, you are more than welcome to. So I am going to, and I don't do this often, so take advantage of it while I'm doing, oh, my nose is itchy. There's a superstition about that. I don't know what the superstition is though. Okay,
There
so
is. There is.
there
I
we go,
think it
please.
means someone's going to tell you a lie or something like that. Itchy nose. Something
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
No, yeah, I got that going around, but that's okay.
Or
So
you're going to
if you
tell
even want to sit with us, you're more than welcome to click on that link. They'll bring you into the studio, and then we can have a chat on this absolutely wonderful NDE episode, near death experience. So tell me something. If you had, if you had oh, what is it? Someone's coming to visit. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that's
that's
what it
it.
is. Someone's
That's it.
coming to visit. I'd like to see who that's gonna be at my house tonight. Okay, so if you were to have a near-death experience, what would you, Carolann, hope that that would be like for you?
Oh, goodness, that's a tough question. That's a good question. Um, yeah, I guess we've got a lot of orbs floating around here
I
today.
know, eh? Holy mackerel.
That's great. I've caught a few on camera too I know Heidi has too. She's caught a lot of them on camera too, which they're mind blowing. I
That's interesting
think,
because we really haven't had that until you. So this is very telling, I think.
oh, I love it. I love it. I think if I had an NTE, I would want it to be so much like the one Peter Pangore had, where met he met angelic beings that like guided him through the process. So he felt very safe and loved. And I
Mhm.
think that I would want to definitely be surrounded by my loved ones and of course my pets that I've had
I
in
was
the
just
past.
going to ask you that. That was my next question. You got to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
and
mean,
I
I know.
think
Go ahead. What was
no,
that?
no, please go ahead. No, no, go
No,
ahead.
I know my pug that passed away before I got Oliver. I know he's still here in my home. So I know I feel him all the time here. So, but
Absolutely.
yeah, I do. It's funny because I don't know, sometimes I feel, did he move on? Is it okay? Is he just coming to visit?
Yes. Okay, so that's a really good topic to kind of address in this particular
Yeah,
episode, because when you have a near-death experience, you come back. So what happens after that person who's had a near-death experience actually passes, right? So when they pass, they go into this warmth and this welcoming. Why would you come back? So two things. One, if someone is stuck, that's what we call a haunting. That's, that realms in the paranormal, all that kind of stuff. But if someone crosses over, and this is why I always encourage spirits to cross over, this is why we do crossing overs a lot of the time, is because it's actually easier for them to come back and forth. Now, when people call on them or when they just want to check in, it literally is stepping over and being able to connect. Now, having said that, it is not the easiest thing for a spirit to come over to begin with. So if they cross over, it just helps them have that much more energy, that much more universal vitality, that much more light to be able to make that transition back to us, to be able to be around us. So yeah, and especially animals. I find that animals are around us more than even humans, but that's just my experience being who I am and
yeah,
what I work with. But I find that animals are with us. So one of the things I always tell people is if you're doing something that's completely non sequitur, you're doing the dishes, you're having a shower, you're doing the vacuuming, you're folding laundry, and all of a sudden they just pop into your head, non
yeah,
sequitur, completely disconnected from everything. Know that they're in the room, acknowledge them. Right. I had one client who actually did have a near death experience. And this was very interesting because he was a very close client. He wasn't a friend, but he was a client. And this guy, I had guided his career a lot. And I remember waking up one day and thinking, he's not here, but he is. Wait, what?
mm,
What's going on? Something was going on. And I knew something was going on because I could feel that there was something happening, but I couldn't. It was such a strange experience. So here's another angle for NDEs that I don't know if you've ever talked about. As a psychic, to feel somebody disconnecting from their bodies is a very unique experience because he had had a heart attack. He was dead for a minute. And then he came back. It was his wife that called me and said, I think he's dying. I think he says, no. I said, I don't think it's his time yet. And then he came back and he was with us for about a year and a half. And then he did pass. And he was
mm,
very grateful and all this kind of stuff after he passed. But he was amazing. And he actually had that experience of, I saw my dad. I saw my family. And that
mm,
actually spun him for a while. But then he came to the conclusion that, you know what, I'm just going to live in my present with my family. But he goes, and I don't know if you've experienced this with your guests, but have they ever talked about the idea that everything looks more three-dimensional? Everything just looks more, 5D. It's almost like more acute. Everything was more acute for them. Did you ever
absolutely.
have? Yeah,
Absolutely. Especially things like color. They've described
right.
color as something that you couldn't ever see on Earth here. the colors are so different.
Yes.
They can't describe them. That's how different they
Yes.
are. Yeah.
So much
And
more.
yes, they
Yes.
said time doesn't exist. There's no, because remember, there was some people that were documented to be out of their body for 5-10 seconds, and they had an NDE that seemed to last days. So time is very different when
Yes.
you're on the other, very different than when
Oh,
you're
I
on the.
agree with that 100%. You know, before people pass, certain people I've been able to connect with. One of my, someone that I knew had an uncle who was passing. And 3 days before, we were playing pool, and I saw his spirit come through. And I said
Mm,
to him, he looked at me and he goes, "What's going on?" Because he knew that look. And I said, "Ivan only has 3 days." And he goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I can feel him disconnecting." Right.
yeah.
So it's interesting because I also feel like that isn't necessarily a near death experience, but he's nearing death.
Mm.
Right. And I find that really interesting too. Okay. So here's a question or a comment. I have been to 2 locations here in my province that I died and removed the residual trauma of my death. Very emotional and powerful to feel the grief and healing relief to pass that over. I think that's a really interesting thing to be able to go somewhere and feel a past life, feel a past death that you've encountered, and that's something I'd be very interested in. People who have, and maybe you'd be able to find one as a guest. People who have had past lives. Okay, stay with me. People have had past lives where they've had near death experiences. That I'd be very interested to see, like people who remember their past lives and remember having a near-death experience as that
Oh, I
past
see.
life,
I see.
right? Little
So in other
complex,
words, they're remember they had a past life experience, and
right?
in that they had an NDE.
Yes. So they didn't
Wow.
have an NDE here, not in this present life, but they had one
I,
in a past life.
I've
That
never.
I'd be very interested in.
Yeah.
I'd love to interview actually a past life regressionist to see what kind of stuff they've come up with and what they've encountered. Because again, the South Americans taught me the only limitation we have are the ones we've placed on ourselves. So how
True.
many stories have we heard, but how many stories are out there that we haven't even touched on yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody in the chat heard. What did he say here? What did a year ago I
Oh,
was
that's the
feeling
one
so.
I was just going to click on. You go,
Oh,
girl.
go ahead. Yeah, read it. Read it. Let's see what he said.
A year ago, I was feeling such a strong pull that someone was passing on, but couldn't figure out who. Just recently learned it was my dad's cousin who was pretty important to me. Always wondered, right? That's amazing because the reality is that we're so connected to each other. Now, here's another question I have about NDE.
Mm,
When someone's having a near-death experience, like I did with that client, I would be very interested in, and I don't know if you've done this. This might be something. Interviewing the family members that actually have had to experience what it's like with somebody who's had an NDE after their experience, right? The person's daughter, the person's brother, the person's friends, the person's work. These people are now have been touched by this. What are their experiences and what are their thoughts on it? Have you ever done that? Have you ever explored the families and the friends of these people?
not their families and friends directly, but I have spoken to a few that have unfortunately had a negative experience with their family and friends because of their NDE. They struggled greatly trying to, because again, cognitive dissonance plays into that, because these people, the very core of what they normally believe is being shaken. And
Yeah.
that's a very difficult thing. So a lot of the folks that have had NDEs don't even talk about it, Angel, because they're so afraid knowing their
Of the
friends and family,
repercussion.
right,
Yeah.
of
It's why
judgment.
people don't talk about ghost experiences, right? It's why
Exactly.
people don't tell people they go see psychics, right? Because
Exactly.
they're really afraid of the backlash. I love this conversation that is going on the sideline in our comments, right? Carrie and Herb, they're all talking about sensing those people that they
Mm,
love before they've crossed over. And how many of us have had those
sure.
experiences,
Yeah,
right? It's
absolutely.
an incredible thing. And again, we don't talk about it, right? We just don't talk enough about it, which is why you and I have the shows that we do, right?
Yeah,
If anybody
exactly.
has, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said you're exactly correct. And I love the fact that you meet your own tribe. You meet the people that it's destined for you to meet. So even though our friends and families may not be accepting of this, but look at the people in the chat, look at the thousands of people we reach, look at the connection we made. I mean, that's what counts to me.
And that's it. Look at all the listeners right now that we have who are sitting there going, oh, yeah, I can relate to that, right? How many people are we giving a sense of peace to, or are recognizing now I'm not alone in that? And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Hillbilly Bird
Yeah.
says these shows are so amazing. They fill a hole in my soul. No joke. I love him. He's so great.
Heidi says the same thing. So many people. I know Kevin Z's son said, I mean, and I always, anytime I have a show, I try so hard to make sure I acknowledge the things that they're saying in the chat and like you're doing, because these people are the people that understand. They're connected. They understand what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and it's like, look at this is wonderful. I have felt that too, guys. Someone slipping away, but not my own death or near death feeling. So this person, he is acknowledging everyone else, and that's the point. Like, I love the sharing circle. I love that. I think it's exciting to watch everybody give their stories. So look, Carrie Fast 8. I missed being with my grandpa when COVID was happening. I got to the hospital with all the bureaucracy of getting in there. I missed him pass by the time I got in the room. So just in her saying that, that's something that she's sharing and has the courage to share it with others. But the thing is, Carrie, is understand this too. When things like that happen, sometimes you're being protected. Sometimes it's the wish of the soul of the grandfather to say, hey, you don't need to see this or experience it. It isn't necessarily your place to be there at that time. How many times have I been around an animal who's crossing over? And that question has come to my head. It's like, why am I there? Why am I watching this animal transition in such a traumatic way? And one day that answer came to me, because I'm to help them transition. Right. I'm to help them. I'm the one who's supposed to help them in that moment. So for you, your grandpa lovingly went, hey, you know what? I don't need anyone near me, number one. But number two, she's really special. My cousin, he was so close to my grandfather growing up. I lived with my grandfather. He lived next door. He was so close, but he was in Calgary working. He took the red eye 5 minutes before he got to the room. 5 minutes before he got to the room. My grandfather took that last breath. And I remember my cousin turned around and he goes, it wasn't meant for me to be here as death because I was here in his life. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Profound.
The whole NDE process is truly miraculous. And I think that doctors, the whole medical community too, had to get to a point where they at least are starting to come around and acknowledging, because there are so many cases where their patients have been hovering over like an OR, and they would tell them, oh, you were listening to Beethoven music, or I saw you drop the scalpel on and the doctors would be like, how did you know that? Like, so things like that started to open up the eyes of the scientific community.
Of course, those who are curious, those who are truly curious. That's what happened to me when I was on the operating table after the accident. I was able to tell the doctors what they had said in that moment. It was so momentary, right? For me, it was so long, but it actually was just a few seconds, right? Like, it's an amazing experience. But at that time, I didn't understand either, right? But as I walked on this path, you begin to open up and get it. Let's see. Miss Shelley, my sister wanted to be with dad when he passed. She left the room. He passed when she left, right? Yeah. So again, don't think for a second that these things are random. They are planned on a soul level. If you are not there for that particular person, it isn't because you missed out on something. It's because your connection to them might be so much greater than just watching them pass, right? Or being there when they pass. You have a different role. Right. And sometimes too, it's vibrational. Some people are not made to work with death, whereas other are meant to be there through the transition. So you had another job. Maybe it was to care for them. Maybe it was just to love them. Maybe it was to be their best friend. That wasn't your contract with them. Right. Sophia says, My friend's husband, who had an NDE, died for a minute and came back. He didn't want to be here after his mom died. My own father died and came back. When I slapped him in the hospital, he wasn't ready. Okay, so this is a very interesting topic.
Mm.
Do you feel that, like, look at Sophia, right? I remember this story she told me. She slapped her dad and that brought him back. Could he have had that NDE, that near-death experience, but she tethered him back? She's the one who brought him back. Do you think that those stories exist as well? Like, you hear about paramedics and they're, using the defibrillators and they bring someone back. Do you think there could be potential for people to cross over, but we ourselves stop that process and therefore
See, I
they have the NDE?
no, I don't think so, Angel. I think that it's all planned that way. It's all part of the plan. And when it's like everyone says, when it's your time to go, you just go. It's that simple.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. I truly, truly agree with you. I am on board with that. Okay, so we have a few minutes left. If there's anybody here who has a question or has a psychic question for animals or for people, please do. If you want to call in, 1-888-393-1333. Tell us where they can, but tell us a little bit about the company that you have, because I don't want to forget this because you love it so much. What's it called?
Sassy Townhouse Living. Thank you so
Tell
much.
us
I
about that.
Yeah, I just I love new inventions and new products. I actually have a patented product out myself. And I love doing reviews of them. So I decided what better way is there to share that information. And that's what Sassy Townhouse does. It largely writes articles about like household hacks and mostly about home and hearth and things like that. And
Nice.
it keeps me busy. It's another way, but honestly, I love this so much more. This is my passion. This whole thing
And don't you
is
have 3 shows? Don't you have
yeah,
3 shows?
I have
You have
three.
Ethereal Encounters. What else?
No, they're all on Ethereal Encounters. In other words, I air 3 times a week. So
Got it.
I have a show on Wednesday at 4, Thursday at 6, and Friday at 3. I
So
don't
you're
know. It's
everywhere. There's
yeah.
no missing you. There's no missing you whatsoever. None. And if you guys want to find out a little bit about me, you can go to raisingenergy.com. You can also go to my Instagram page and follow there everything for me is Raising Energy and Creature Code Podcast. So I do have an Instagram account for Creature Code Podcast as well. Our catch-all is Raising Energy, so you're more than welcome to connect with us there. I am absolutely loving this conversation. So I have to tell you, just triggered a memory. I don't know why this memory got triggered. I was on a paranormal investigation. Didn't click until just now. It's been years. Thank you for making this click for me. So I was on this paranormal investigation and we had this child and she told me, she goes, I died 3 times. I'm like, oh, okay. She says, she keeps saying she died 3 times. I didn't understand it. And I keep seeing her dying, then waking up, dying, then waking up, but it's all in the same life. Never understood it until this moment. She had 2 of those 3 deaths were NDEs.
What?
2
How
of the
old
3. She was probably about, I'd probably say about 9 years old. She was a spirit. This was a ghost. This was a ghost.
Oh,
This was not a living child. This was a
I
ghost. A ghost kept saying to me, she kept going, I died 3 times. I died 3 times. And you could feel the frustration because we weren't getting it. And I'm like, I don't understand. Maybe she's talking about, but it never hit me. This was years ago till just now.
Yeah,
I have
sounds
a feeling that she actually had 2 near-death experiences because of the period she was in too. She could have died of sickness and came back. She could have had whatever it might have been. And also she did talk about it's like she was hiding and then she was shot, but she didn't die. She was shot, but she didn't die. And I'm like, okay. But it was just the way she said it. Now it's clicking with me. But I think at least, like, she had 3. Obviously, the last one was a death. At least one of those 2, if not both of them, were NDEs.
goodness. Are you a big equipment user? Like, what's your favorite equipment to use?
So I was a non-believer in paranormal work, but I absolutely adore spirit boxes. That is my favorite thing. However, we did just have an experience with a with Estes. Estes is when you wear the blindfold, for those people who don't know, and you wear headphones and you only have a spirit box in front of you, and someone is asking questions, but you can't hear them and you can't see them. Okay. And they're asking questions and you get the answers through the Estes box. And we just
My
had an experience with an elephant. Only two of us, three of us knew the actual story. The person with the Estes did not know the story, and she answered everything. And we had a communication with this elephant that tragically died. So I love my spirit box. I love it, love it, love it. Everybody knows that. I even have a show that I've toured with it. But the Estes is fast becoming one of my favorite pieces of equipment too.
oh,
So
I
I love
love that. Yeah.
yeah, they're amazing. But you know what's really funny is, again, I was a non-believer, right? So I'm just like, okay, prove it to me. And I got bored. A friend of mine brought me into a paranormal investigation, and the machine actually saw, like the SLS camera actually saw what I was seeing. And I'm like,
Wow.
what? Excuse me, what? Like they have no investment, right? So it was really, really cool. What I would love to see now that I'm saying this, do you know what would be really cool? Probably not for the person having the NDE, but what would be really cool is to have an SLS camera in that moment of someone having a near death experience. What would we catch around that person, right? What would we
Well, they
catch if they're
already
having?
document there's a group of scientists that already documented um, a millisecond after a person dies, the weight of the body changes. And they were actually, yeah, you can go look it up.
That's
It's
really
already
cool.
documented that the weight of the body changes prior and after death. And they were actually able, this is kind of mind blowing. They were actually able to track where that energy goes, and they pinpointed a spot
Wow.
in a faraway galaxy to where that energy went. It's
So
crazy,
I would
but
love
it's
to have an SLS camera on that,
yeah,
because the SLS camera, again, for those of you who don't know, picks up the energy signature of the spirit as it's moving around. So if someone is dying or is dead, you'll see the actual release of that spirit, which is really, really
sure.
cool. Let me see. Oh, I'm trying to carry. Where is that? Ghost. I can't. I'm trying to can you catch Hillbilly? Because I'm putting my thing over. It won't let me
One,
do his. There we go. Thank you. For some reason, it doesn't let me do his. The ghost cat ball toy I keep in the kitchen hasn't gone off for 2 weeks. Then the other night while I was making dinner, it wouldn't stop going off. I think someone really
wow.
wanted meat pie and taters. Yeah. Yeah, probably, probably. You're probably the reason I bought that meat pie today. I was probably tapping into you, Hillbilly.
That,
That's what it was.
yes.
Okay, here's an interesting one. I watched someone demonstrate a spirit box. It would light up different colors and very active voices. It did not read radio frequencies. I was reading the colors, may have been energy in the chakras. I love that. So there are different kinds of ways of, connecting. Hillbilly Hairs says those SLS cams are amazing. They are, and there are ones now that can get 6 different ways of connecting to spirit now too, like 6 different
Yeah.
angles, 6 different. But yeah, so there are different ways of capturing it, and with lights is one of them. So we had a spirit box where we did put lights on. So as the spirits were coming through, the lights would light up as well to accentuate what was being
Yeah.
said. And I remember actually being on stage and saying, I've never had an animal come through. And the second I did that, boom, the animal came through. So I
Wow.
actually do a show where we have a spirit box on stage and we actually bring through the voices of the dead for the audience.
What
It's
about you?
astounding.
Do you like to document them, the EVPs as well, or
No, you know what? I don't. I just love I enjoy it in the moment and what we get. And
yeah?
sometimes, if we're doing a live with a paranormal team, it does get documented. Like we do have all the elephant stuff that was documented, thank God. And we're going to be releasing that very shortly through Paranormal XP and Hauntingly Krista. So I personally don't. But they do. And I've had some really wicked experiences with them. So again, getting back to the NDE, I would absolutely love, 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 love to have just one SLS camera watch that happen, right? It would be
Yeah, yeah,
amazing,
yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much for being on
Oh,
my show today, Carolann. I have loved every second of having you
me too.
on, and we're going to have you back for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
I've got your
And
book already.
sorry?
I've got you booked on my show already.
Right?
Got it.
No kidding. So I'm very grateful to all the people who've commented, all the people who've been here. We're here every Monday, 4 p.m. EST. Thank you, UPRN Radio, for allowing us to have this beautiful platform to do our work, to share our stories. 107.7 in one of my favorite places, New Orleans, and 105.3 on the Gulf Coast. Have I missed anything in that? I don't think so. I think that's everything, right?
Got it.
Yeah. She trained me good. She trained me good. She really did. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you next week on the Creature Code podcast. Bye. Thank you so much, Carolann. Bye, love.
Thank
Bye.
you, friend.
Bye, guys.